Welcome, it's Thursday. I am live on Facebook and Instagram, and it's been a while. I was away for 2 weeks from my Facebook lives because obviously the week prior, some admin at home that I needed to sort out with solar, and guess what, guys? Solar is still not running smoothly. Oh, I can see there's lots of people logging in. Fantastic. Conscious Sweet Pea. Oh, I like that. Deline, also welcome on Instagram. And then if you're on Facebook, remember to let me know in the comments who you are so I can give you a shout out. So I've been away for 2 weeks and I really have missed everyone. I've got to say, I really enjoy doing the research and presenting it to you on a Thursday. It's fun for me. It's my passion. So welcome today. Hopefully we can teach you a little bit more about the chemistry series. If you can't remember what I did in the previous 7 episodes, remember they're always available on replay, either in the feed of my Insta or my Facebook or Facebook feed, of course, and then under the videos, and on Insta under IGTV. But you also are free to catch me on YouTube because I upload the videos there as well. Lizzie, we can also see that you've just logged in. Welcome. And we have Zen Botanica, Zen Botanica, and that's of course Jerry. So please, get your notebooks and your pens. Today is jam-packed because it's one of those incredibly powerful ones that we're going to be talking about today. Great, we have Henny on Facebook. Henny, I have not seen you on my lives for a very long time, so welcome. I'm glad you're back today to come and learn a little bit more about our beautiful chemical constituents that we find in our natural solutions, because we are not, we always have to think of Team U. It's always a team effort with all the components that are in an essential oil. But definitely the chemical constituents themselves have their own function, and then they're going to work synergistically with other things in that essential oil as well. Live Daily Drops is also just joined. Fantastic. Yay. And Catherine is also on Follow the Sun with Kat. So good to have you all on today. Yeah, very excited being on that 2-week break. Of course, last week I was on a leadership retreat in the beautiful Cape Town. Wow, what an absolutely inspirational time I had with just so many people who have decided to switch to natural solutions. It's been it's life-changing when you are in one location together with people who love exactly what you love, and the interaction and the energy exchange is out of this world. Absolutely blessed to have had that experience. And of course, being an active entrepreneur and really being passionate about mentoring people to start up their own wellness businesses by partnering or by using our essential oils and getting an education as a customer, it's just absolutely wonderful. So it was a really amazing week. Oh, fantastic. We have Paula on as well. Iman, fantastic to have you on as well here today. So good to start again. So today's episode 8 of my chemistry series. And today we're talking about a molecule called Carvacrol. Now, this is something you probably have come across before. I'm pretty sure you have. So Carvacrol is phenolic, and it's got a very spicy odor because it's a monoterpene phenol. Monoterpene, obviously, we've talked about monoterpenes quite a while now in all the previous sessions as well. The monoterpenes has got many functions and supportive benefits, but the ones that are different from the phenols that I'm just going to highlight is it offers a respiratory support, it's analgesic, and it can even be an expectorant. Rochelle Nagel, I can see you've just logged in on Facebook as well. Welcome, it's really good to have you on. Bev, yay, Bev is also back all the way on Insta. Good to see you. So basically, the phenol component itself is another alcohol. And I can't see Kobus van Tonder on here today. I know Henny's here, but not Kobus. Now, I know Kobus van Tonder always has like big smiley faces when he can cheers his beer mug because he really likes the alcohol that comes with the beer. And of course, the hops, which is really calming to the nervous system. But it's, again, not that type of alcohol. So phenols is another type of alcohol. And specifically, a phenol is where the oxygen and the hydrogen are actually attached to a benzene ring, all right? And that's why it's got such a strong, fragrant aroma. So here, for the nerds, this is what it looks like. That's the Carvacrol molecule. So right, there's the backbone, the carbon backbone, and there's that oxygen and the hydrogen that I was speaking about that is now attached to that very specific ring, all right, benzene ring. Very fragrant, incredibly potent, very, very strong oil. And usually the phenols are what we call restoring oils. Now, restoring oils are really good for emotional, but also for physical support. So they're meant to help revive, strengthen, rejuvenate, and it does all of that being incredibly forceful, especially when you start looking at the Carvacrol molecule, because it is so incredibly potent. Some of these essential oils that contain the Carvacrol have it in various concentrations. Obviously, oregano is the one with the strongest concentration of Carvacrol in it. And then there are some additional essentials like marjoram, for example, although it very much depends on where it's sourced, the exact species, because there's also the different chemotypes and isomers that we are dealing with in these oils. So chemotype specific, there are some marjorams that are high in Carvacrol, but the one that I have, for example, has almost zero Carvacrol in it. So it very much depends on the species and where you are sourcing your oils from. And of course, how pure they are. So when you are using an oregano, being the highest in Carvacrol, it's also one that needs to be treated with utmost respect, because Carvacrol, very potent. And especially when you're dealing with an oil like oregano, for example, being around 50 to 70 times more powerful than the herbs, you are going to get a really strong kick or a really strong punch, all right? So phenols in general, this is the first time we're talking about phenols today. It's antibacterial, they have antiviral properties, antifungal, antiparasitic, analgesic, antispasmodic. It's also immune stimulating, very good for the immune system. It's also considered a general tonic, a stimulant, although in the case of oregano can be quite sedating if you're going to be diffusing it, especially at high concentrations. It can be an irritant to the mucous membranes in the skin. And the reason for that is going to come out in the part where I talk a little bit more about the safety and the chemistry, specifically in oils that are very high in Carvacrol. So it's very invigorating, all right? And very strong, very, very punchy kind of flavor because it is such a powerful constituent. So let's talk about just the three ways we can use oils that are high in these phenols. It's aromatic, obviously, because they are generally very invigorating and they're going to be supporting a lot of emotional benefits. If we use them topically, they are very powerful in cleansing properties and therefore really good for skin or surface cleansing. Except when we're dealing with hot oils. We're going to talk about the carrier oils in a minute. Then we also can use them internally, especially if you're using a tested grade oil where you can get your specific lab results for. So a GCMS result showing you the various ratios of the chemical constituents in there. And usually that's a telltale sign. All of those, when you are able to get the lab results for your particular batch of oil, you'll know for certain because it usually is on that report saying whether this essential oil has got any additional heavy metals, pesticides or fertilizers in there, which is going to come with the plant. Unless you're sourcing from a very reputable company, obviously, and you're getting your lab results where it's very clearly going to show that the oil is pure and it's going to have a really good medicinal benefit and supportive benefit for your body. So when we're using them internally, they're very high in antioxidants, the phenol-containing oils. They are very good for the cardiovascular system, the circulatory system, digestive and gastrointestinal, which is why this is one of my favorite chemical constituents, immune support, nervous system support, and also the respiratory system, which gets really good benefit from using these phenols, and that's coming from that monoterpene backbone. So let's talk about the aromatic use, because in general, when we do things aromatically, it's to freshen up a room. Yes, it's to make the things smell amazing. But more than that, when we start looking at medicinally, it's for the emotional support, because we're actually inhaling those chemical constituents that are present in the oil, and they travel up your nose, and then there's those olfactory nerve sensors just below that bony part, and they pick up these messages from the chemical constituents, which then get sent straight to the limbic brain, and then your body reacts, right? So there's certain neurotransmitters that are then increased or decreased, depending on which one it is that you're using. I can also see Oil Life Teacher is just logged in. That's Lisa. Welcome, welcome. So great to have you on. So the oregano, when we look at the emotional side, it's called humility, also the oil of humility and non-attachment. Now, if you're anything quite rigid, wood in Chinese medicine, listen up. This is going to be a good oil for you because it cuts through the fluff of life. This is why it's one of my favorite essential oils, because I don't like tierlantijntjies. I do talk a lot, but there's usually something valuable in everything that I say, or at least I think so, right? Maybe other people don't think the same, but it cuts through the fluff of life, and it teaches us to do the same. And this is quite important. It helps us to remove blocks and clears negativity, cuts away negative attachments, right? And negative attachments, when you listen to that word, negative attachments, those are not healthy. So it's very powerful and it's very forceful, almost very intense, especially if you're going to be using an oil specifically high in Carvacrol. And here I'm talking more specifically about oregano, because it is the essential oil that has the highest concentration of Carvacrol that we do have available. So it addresses your need to always be right, and it will give you strength, especially when you're unwilling to budge. And that's where that wood from the Chinese medicine comes from, okay? So it's very resolute, and it helps you to break through your strong will, and it teaches you humility. So this is a very incredible oil to be using emotionally, and we will be talking about the physical benefits in a minute too, but it really encourages true spirituality. So looking on the spiritual side, it invites your soul to live in non-attachment. Now, that is a word you're going to have to go Google, because there's a lot of different definitions for that word non-attachment. But it basically teaches you that even in devotion, you've got to let go. You've got to release to your higher power, to be less willful when it's a negative willfulness. In other words, when you are too strong, right? Negative attachment and materialism. So it helps you to let go of that. Soul Wellness has also just joined. Welcome. I really like your icon. Your avatar is really awesome. I think it almost looks like Maria. Not sure if I'm looking at the avatar. Let me know who you are in the comments. That'll be really awesome. Thank you. All right. So when we start looking physically now, so this is where we're going to be using it internally as well as topically. But remember, you're also still going to get the benefits from inhaling it aromatically, even the physical benefits, because the molecules travel. Yay, I got just from an icon. That is how powerful an avatar can be. Check it that. It is Maria from Soul Wellness. So basically, because these molecules travel up your nasal passages and there's vessels involved, blood vessels, they can dissolve, they can enter the cells. So you're still going to get the physical benefits. But I think if you're going to be using them in a targeted area, then obviously topical is going to be a lot more preferable. And even internally, when we start looking at specifically the antioxidant benefits of the oils that are very high in Carvacrol. So before we start looking at our own wellness habits and how we can support our bodies, please note, Carvacrol is used extensively in the industry as well. Food packaging, for example, very high research or usage because of the antibacterial properties, especially when they have sort of a globule that they put around that molecule. They even use it in surface coatings, so things like paint, where you're dealing with mold, for example, because the oils high in Carvacrol are so antifungal and antimicrobial, they really offer a lot of benefits when used in the industry as well. So there's some really good information. So it's not just helping human bodies, it's also helping the environment. So really, really a fantastic chemical constituent to have around and be learning about and making your friend. So it's got a lot of biological activities when we start looking physiologically, so what's happening in the body. The experimental research is showing that it is very antibacterial and antifungal, the reason why it's used in the industry as well, insecticidal in fact, antioxidant, and very high in anti-tumoral activity as well. Not only that, it is also what we call anti-genotoxic. Big word. That means it is supportive to the genes that may have got hurt due to oxidative stress or damage, which is really beneficial because that's something our bodies struggle with when our toxin load or our toxic chemical load is too high on a daily basis from everything that we're inhaling, using in our skins, on our surfaces, cleaning our floors, those kind of things. So in vivo, testing cell culture, in other words, antigenotoxic activity has been shown to be effective because of the detoxification mechanisms that are activated, right? So it suppresses certain metabolic processes where oxidative stress is caused, and that is why it is really supportive to healthy genetic material, all right? Because it sort of slows down that oxidative stress that your body's going to be experiencing. It also is really good when we start looking at the gut health scenario for people who have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, so oils that are high in Carvacrol, specifically oregano, really, really good, especially when you're going to be using them internally. But here, please remember, you've got to be using a tested grade essential oil that you have the results for. Read your label. If it says not for internal use, do not go consuming these oils internally. And because oregano is a hot oil, and we'll get to why it's a hot oil in a second, but it's a hot oil, so not something that you're just going to take lightly and put a drop in your glass of water. It's going to sting, it's going to burn like chili pepper, right? So definitely one that needs to be used with a lot of caution. There's also very good results showing that oregano supports healthy digestion by promoting the secretion of digestive juices. So for those of you that are lacking in the digestive juices or your enzymes are not as functioning as well as they should, oregano is something that you could include into your wellness routine, but definitely not on a daily basis. Remember, the Carvacrol molecule is slightly larger, although it's incredibly hepatic supportive. So there's actually tests, animal studies, where they show liver damage induced by specifically alcohol. That damage is reversed by using oregano or Carvacrol. But definitely, because the Carvacrol is a larger molecule, it's one that should be used in moderation and definitely not be included daily, day in and day out. So going through a supportive stage for about 10 days where you're supporting your internal detoxing in your organs, and then giving it a break and then starting up again. So this is also, again, on the digestive side, why this oil is so incredible for me with regards to people suffering from an autoimmune condition where your villi in your digestive tract may be damaged by certain foods that you take in. And the oregano has been shown to increase the length and the regrowth of that particular villi, but it also promotes intestinal barrier integrity. So when your barrier becomes leaky, there are certain food molecules, for example, that are not digested properly that gets into your system, and then your body thinks it's an invader and it starts attacking it. And then there's an inflammatory reaction, an unhealthy inflammatory reaction that sort of takes place. And oregano is really good in supporting a healthy barrier. So very, very good internal oil this to be using for any kind of digestive support. Now, here's an interesting fact about specifically oils high in Carvacrol, which I bet you didn't know about. I really looked at this morning and I'm like, wait, what? Because it is such a phenolic, strong flavor. I mean, if you think about things that are really seductive, for example, you think about ylang ylang. But definitely not something like oregano. And Petra's also just logged in. Welcome, welcome on Facebook. So here's the thing. Oils high in Carvacrol are also aphrodisiacs. And the reason for that is they increase the concentration of follicle stimulating hormone and testosterone. I didn't know that. So that to me was an incredible fact that I learned this morning. So definitely a nice one to have in the diffuser, but you're probably going to have to add some other essential oils in there as well, because the oregano, as I say, is a very, very potent essential oil. So here we get to the reason why it is a hot oil or a more sensitive oil, and definitely an essential oil that you need to use with a lot more caution, specifically internally as well as topically. Because it is an isomer with, and remember that's the other part. So it's an isomer is when it's the same components, right? So the molecule is made up, it's identical components that make up that chemical constituent, but they're in a different space in the chemical structure, all right? So the isomer for Carvacrol is thymol, which is also present in oregano, by the way, and also in thyme. Andrew, I can see you've logged in. Welcome, welcome. So it's an isomer of thymol or thymol, depending on how you say it, but because there is a phenol molecule present, it also is a weak acid, and this is the reason it can be quite corrosive. So therefore, safety first, always dilute with carrier oil when you're going to be using oregano. I can see there's some information coming through about people using it in their cooking. Yes, passionate Italian pizza and pasta. Now we know, hey? Now we know why they add oregano. Look, it's for the digestive support as well, obviously. That's why traditionally oregano is used in the food. But now we know it's gonna have that aphrodisiac ability as well, which I find incredibly interesting. So let's look at the safety side, because yes, it can be corrosive if you're not going to be diluting. So especially if you're going to be using it internally, I would definitely suggest using it in an empty veggie capsule or gel capsule. I always add carrier oil to my veggie capsule as well. I don't want to have that chilly burn sensation when I'm going to be using the oil internally. But the thing with specifically the oregano and the oil's very high in Carvacrol, and oregano is probably at the top of that list. It actually has between 60 to 80% Carvacrol. It has very strong antiplatelet activity. Now, antiplatelet, this is done in cell culture. So there are definitely oils which they've shown further studies. So in other words, in animals and in animal models that definitely have that anticoagulant. So in other words, it prevents you from clotting, okay? There are oils like wintergreen, for example, in animal studies, which are definitely higher up on the list for the antiplatelet action. But Carvacrol definitely in cell culture has very strong antiplatelet activity as well. So I would definitely be using with caution, for example, when you are on diabetic medications, so when you're supporting blood sugar levels, and for example, when you have had major surgery or you're going to have major surgery, because obviously it's going to have the thinning effect of your blood, when you are already on anticoagulant drugs, because it's going to make them stronger. And those anticoagulant drugs work in a very small bracket in your body, right? It's very much based on your body weight. So please use with caution then, because you're actually going to make your medication stronger. Definitely an oil that should be used with caution during childbirth, peptic ulcers, hemophilia, or even bleeding disorders. So you can see here all the conditions mentioned are definitely when you are dealing with a situation where you either need to thin your blood or you're already sitting with thin blood. Then obviously use the oregano with more caution, and definitely consult a healthcare practitioner if you do need to use it specifically to support very serious digestive issues, for example. All right, so I found a lot of good information on specifically Carvacrol oils today, but the two that we're going to talk about most is the oregano and the thyme, because although the percentages of the Carvacrol differ, and I think there's, if I look at the Tisserand Guide for Health Professionals, there's probably 30 or 40 essential oils that actually do have a lot of Carvacrol in it, but it very much depends on where you're sourcing your oil from and where that plant is grown in the world and what particular species it is. So, Henny needs to run. No stress, Henny. You know where you can go and fetch the replay from YouTube, right? You can go and watch the end there as well. So, I completely lost my train of thought there now. Oh, there we go. Depending on where you get the plant in the world, the Carvacrol concentration is definitely going to change. Now, particularly the brands that I use, I've gone and checked on, because I can get the lab results for every single batch of oil. I've checked my specific oregano oil. I've also checked my thyme. And I've also checked my marjoram, because there are marjoram species that do contain Carvacrol. But interestingly, my oregano has a percentage of, let me just check here on the dot, 64.7 Carvacrol. My thyme has 1.72, and my marjoram only 0.04%. Okay, so definitely get those lab results, because if you're after the Carvacrol, then you know which essential oil you're going to choose first. So oregano traditionally is very powerfully cleansing and purifying. It supports the immune system, and it's very high in antioxidant power, specifically when used internally. And this is also the reason why it has all those physiological benefits, supportive benefits in your body, right? So when you're looking for that high antioxidant power for supporting really good integrity of your chromosomal materials, and your cellular support, then definitely the oregano is going to be a really good essential oil to be used aromatically, internally, as well as topically, but definitely with dilution, please, internally and topically. Obviously, you're not going to dilute when you put in the diffuser, because your carrier oil is going to clog your diaphragm, okay? So don't use the carrier oil in the diffuser. When we look at thyme, which has got a lower concentration, it still provides very powerful antioxidants because of the other chemical constituents that are also present, and it's really supportive for a healthy immune response when you're going to be using the thyme essential oil. Very good to support repelling insects because it has a very strong flavor and fragrance. And the body systems that benefit most from thyme is obviously the immune system. So if I can wrap up the ways that we would use oregano, for example, or the way that I use it very frequently is definitely, I can also see Michael is logged in. Welcome, welcome. And why did I miss that earlier? Very nice little poppy flower for your avatar. But basically the marjoram being less, we can use that in cooking. The oregano being much higher, we can use that in cooking. And you can also use the thyme because they can all have the benefits, but just at varying percentages and therefore varying degrees of how they're going to support you. The way I use it is in cooking. There's a study where they actually show, because remember, heat destroys chemical constituents, it changes it, but there are studies showing that the Carvacrol actually remains quite intact. More than 60% actually remains when you, for example, are boiling pasta that already contains the oregano essential oil, which is really amazing. So it does actually remain. You're still going to get the benefits, in other words. There are other oils, obviously, that are a lot more volatile that aren't going to stick as much inside, especially when you're going to be using heat. But cooking is a really good way. And I think surface cleansers, so surface sprays do really well with the oils that are high in Carvacrol. Sorry, you can see my arm going forward and back all the time because the Instagram keeps on going down on my one device here. So basically when you're going to be using it for surface cleansing, it's going to be very powerful and very potent, right? So especially if you're using a vinegar water-based solution, the oils are going to float on top, and when you're going to shake it up and spray it onto your surface, then perhaps, because it's now going to be neat, water actually intensifies. It's not in a carrier oil. So just then, I think be protective with your skin specifically. It's going to be really good in cleansing. I, for example, use oregano very frequently in a shower if there is a problem with a particular mold, for example, but then I always wear gloves so that I am sure that I'm not going to be giving that chilly sensation to my skin or my hands, wherever it is that I'm cleaning and I'm spraying that chickens or the surface cleansing spray. So cleaning, cooking, best ways to use it, and aromatically by adding other oils, all right? And for those of you that are really interested in learning how to cook with your oregano essential oil, there are some really nice recipes online. There's, for example, a really nice Italian chicken recipe that I came, or soup recipe that I came on this morning while I was doing a little bit of research. So if you're interested specifically in that Italian chicken soup recipe, just put it in the comments for me, and I can send you the link. So that you can go and have a look at it. And obviously you can alternate things and then you can exchange it with marjoram and thyme, but it's a really nice recipe to go and look into. So really good having you all on today. I'm really excited that I'm back with my weekly sessions on the chemistry series. Today was episode 8. All the previous episodes will be on YouTube, as well as IGTV on Insta, as well as on Facebook in the feed and videos. So I hopefully see you guys again all next week, Thursday, for my next live in the chemistry series. And if you do feel the need to share this with someone who may benefit, just go and tag them in the comments. It's not a closed group, so it's very easy to go and tag someone there so they can actually see the post. And then just go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because if there is a replay or I load something up on there, then you will be notified. If you're keen to buy these oils that I keep on talking about with lab results and you don't know where to get them, please reach out to me because I can definitely help you with that as well. So good to see you all. See you next week. Cheerio.